Hello, and welcome back to the channel. For those who've been here before, it's been a minute since I recorded a video. I'm busy grinding away, working a bunch of client projects. I'm quite busy, but recently I popped my head back up and started to do some more technology analysis of what's kind of changing in the JavaScript framework landscape. Earlier this week, actually last week, I posted a tweet and about using React Router 7 with Remix. And I have a sample project, which I'll include a link below in the description. And this week I started playing with Tanstack Start. I have used TanStack Router, I've used TanStack Table, I've used TanStack Query. TanStack Start is this full stack React framework powered by TanStack Router. Let's click in a little bit. So those who haven't read it, full document SSR, streaming, server functions, bundling, and more. This is a status of alpha. But because I've used the other tools in the framework, I figured, hey, let me just poke around and play with this a little bit. Um, it's pretty cool. The bulk of it, really, in my opinion, is kind of the integration of the router and all the really cool things you can do with the router. All I have done in the sample project is taken the sample project that is provided in TanStack Start. And so if I go to docs, where's it? Get started. I've just kind of walked through this process and gotten the basic app up. And then I've cleaned it up a little bit, added some documentation, simplified it to help me understand the basics. So, first of all, thanks for stopping by. Please make sure you like and subscribe. I'm not going to type this up. This project is already running. I'm just going to kind of walk you some highlights of the code. There's also a link in the repo to this project, so feel free to check that out. So let's kind of first get started with the app. Very simple application. Home, projects, as a list of projects. You can list through the projects. This is kind of showing nested routes with the route and then another outlet to show this side. Then I have users, same kind of thing, nested route. I've also added the ability to kind of add users. I don't know if I'm already in. Create users. The other thing that I want to mention is that I've integrated Drizzle in this application because I wanted to see how the server functions works and I wanted to really write to a backend, so I've done that also. So that's kind of that for the app. Quickly go over kind of the Drizzle for folks who haven't used it before. I have set up a schema. Drizzle's the ORM object relation model that helps you kind of map the interacting with databases. I'm just using SQLite, but this thing I think can work with Mongo. It can work with most of the popular databases. So I just have this simple database table. It's got users, it's got projects, and the projects are associated to users. And so I define my schema here, and then let's go back out. And then I set up how I'm going to connect to my database here. I pass in these parameters. And then you have your Drizzle configuration. Kind of set up how Drizzle communicates and interacts with everything. And for those who've used Prisma before, very similar. You run migrations, you push to the database, and you update the database, blah, blah. I have other videos on my channel that talk more about Drizzle. So like I said, I'm not going to go too deep into it. I will provide a link to it in the documentation. But I just wanted you to know what's going on in the back end. So what do we have in a project? A bunch of these files you just get for free. This SSR text comes for free. This route tree is generated based on the routes you create, which give you the type safe routes. This router file you get for free. This client file you get for free. This API TS file you get for free. So all of these files just kind of come along with the project. The app configuration you don't necessarily get for free. You can actually you do get it. It comes along with the project, but then you do need to modify it. The only modification I did was set up this Drizzle ORM as external. I did this because I saw it in one of the samples, as I did a lot of GitHub kind of scrounging around in GitHub and issues to try to get this application up and running. So if anyone knows more about a lot of this stuff, please feel free. I suspect a lot of this is Vite configuration. I'm going to kind of need to dig in deeper into Vite to wrap my head around it. But like I said, my focus here really is on TanStack Start and kind of getting a base foundation so as it moves from alpha to beta and so whatever, I can kind of stay along with it. So let's just hop into the routes. So I'm going to hop straight to a more complex route since it's going to cover a lot of the topics, and this way I don't have to go through every single file in this video. So let's look at, this is a route projects that lists all of the projects that I have stored in my database. Right, and so what you can notice is right here from the top, you kind of define this export called route. You define the path. I have a loader here, so I can define the loader of how I'm going to load my data when this route gets hit. And then I have the component that's associated with it. And as you can see underneath here, I have my component listed. This is just basic React component, nothing magical here. But you can see that I get my loader data from this fetch project. I get it loaded here on this route, use loader data, and I get the projects. You can see I get my types that come through here. And then this is just regular React that you have down here. Let's go next up to, and let's take a look at my fetch projects that I have here. So let's hop over to that. Let's go. Okay, so my fetch projects is down here. It's not in my routes, it's in my utils. And I have this project service. And you can see here I'm creating a server function. So this fetch project is going to run on the server. And what I like about this is that from my front end, I could call these server functions. They're type safe, so I can see, oh, this is my fetch project by ID. This is my fetch projects. I'll cover the parameters later. So this is a function that I create with this create server function. I pass in the get, kind of the method that I want to use, and then it just runs on the server. This is Drizzle code. I get my database, I select for all projects, and I return all projects. I can throw errors if I want to. And so that's kind of how when I click on my projects, it just kind of is loading the data. Quickly take a pop down here to these TanStack tools. For the router that you get here, you can see on my router, I'm on my route. See, it also looks like it kind of cached some of the other routes here. Well, it looks like it went through and cached a bunch of these routes, which is very helpful also. But if I go to my router, I know there's a way to do it because I was playing with this earlier. For those who've used React Query and the query tools you get there, you can kind of poke in and see kind of what's going on with the router and the actions that it's taking, data that's coming back from when it gets loaded. So if we look at, let me see, where's my projects? This is my projects route. I was pretty certain there was a way for me to actually see the loaded data and a bunch of other things that are coming in. But let's hop back here. So this is how I have my route. Now let's look how I can pass parameters and have nested routes. So if I click on one of my, let's use a normal project. So if I click on one of my projects, you can see I have my project and I pass my ID here on my route. So if we go down and we look now at my route, this is file-based routing. So it's a nested route. So projects, and then this project by the ID is a nested route. So it has a projects dot and then the $ID for the parameter that's passed in. Well, let's look at this route. Similar, we create the route here, project/project ID. I get my parameter, my project ID parameter, it gets passed in. And then I have a fetch project server function that I'm calling. Once again, it's very cool because these server functions, I get my types and everything that are coming through. So I have my fetch project, and I'm going to get and it takes a project ID. And if we go to that project now, let's go back here to, where's my utils? Project service, fetch project. That's fetch projects. You go to fetch project. I have our project ID, which gets passed in. I use my Drizzle to query the database. I find my project where the project ID matches, convert it to an integer because the ID is stored as an integer, throw an arrow without, otherwise I return the project that I found. if we go back, we can see that this is what's executed in the loader. So in my use loader data, I get my type safe response of my project and I render it. A couple of other things that we have going on here. We have a not found component. So this component gets rendered if a error gets thrown from this, this gets rendered if there's no data found in the fetch project. This is my component that I'm using, and this is the error component that gets thrown for any errors that happen inside of this project component. The same thing is basically reproduced for how I'm managing my users. I have an index page, which lists all my, I have my users, I have my users page. Here you are. I have my users page, which fetches all the users and renders all the users, very similar to the projects. You can see it has the outlet, so then we get our nested, which is our new user. Actually, this is a little bit different, so let me kind of go through the new route. So it's very similar. We create the route with the path, normal form to capture data, but once again, on the submit action, the submit button, we're going to call, this is once again another server function that we're calling, passing in the parameters as the payload, and then kind of creating the user object. On success, we navigate to the new path to see all the users, and that's it. So I think some of the cool stuff that I've covered so far and that I've wrapped my head so far around with TanStack Start is the route, the type magic that you get from this this route tree gen file, which gets updated, which gets auto-generated by a TanStack Router, which gives you the type safe routers. It lets you know what routes are available, all the other good stuff. I like the simplicity of the creating the server functions. I like that I'm not running all over the place, like in Next writing use client, use server all over the place. I can just kind of write the code. And this is early on. This is only in alpha still. The other cool thing is that this thing can be compiled to SSR, which if I hop over to my package JSON, where did it go? You can see here, I'm setting this preset to node server so that my output can run on my node server. And so when we run the start command, it starts up our node server, and then it will run the output that we got from the build. Well, it's kind of hard to see it this way, so let's take a pause and kind of build this thing. So let's come down here. And if we close this bit, give us some more room. There's a bunch of generating of output files. It's running in a Nitro server. You can see it's bundling up everything for SSR. And then after it's done building, you can do npm run, what did I say, start? Okay, and so, hey, did you notice how quickly the thing flew by? But now we're running the server statically generated files to execute our application. See, a lot of this stuff is cached because we're not seeing any activity going on over here, and it's running. Like I said, I will be playing around more with this and learning along the way. Feel free to join me on my journey. Hopefully you find some benefit in this. I just want to share what I've done and what I've learned. Take a look at the source code, drop any questions that you have, and I will see you next time.